As ASEAN moves towards building its own interconnected power grid, it can look to Europe's successful energy network for key lessons. Experts in Sweden say a unified, flexible energy market to enhance regional cooperation was key to meeting the rising demand of electricity needs. Nadira Zaidi reports from Stockholm.
This station provides most of Stockholm's heating, cooling, and electricity. It generates power mainly from biofuels and incinerating waste.
This is the forestry residue which is typically left to rot in Swedish forests. It's used in the boiler to help boil water up to 560 degrees. Now once that water is boiled, it would create steam which would power the turbine to generate electricity and district heating. And that will be supplied to the city of Stockholm.
Like Singapore, Stockholm is aiming for a fossil fuel-free future by 2040. Stockholm Exergi has spent over 150,000 engineering hours working on a carbon capture project to reduce emissions from generating electricity. Even this process will go back to supporting the city's energy needs.
What we're doing here is looking how we can integrate that into an existing infrastructure for energy and do that as efficient as possible. And when we integrate carbon capture with a combined heat and power plant, that presents some unique possibilities, because all the energy that's used in the carbon capture process can be recovered back into district heating.
In Europe, weather conditions affect energy demand and supply. With countries relying on different energy sources, the EU power grid is key to ensuring a reliable and steady flow of electricity throughout the year.
So when it was peak in Denmark, they could import from us, and then it was peak in Sweden, we could import from them. So the benefit of having lines between different regions is that, especially if you have large amount of solar power, wind power, and or in Nordic system we have hydropower, we can share the resources in a smart way.
Prof. Söder says one key lesson from creating the EU power grid was the importance of a unified market.
The issue is that you have to have a common market, so you have to agree between the different countries on pricing and so on. And for example, in what is really important here is that you have, for example, a free market in each country, because you cannot have, let's say, a very state-controlled market on one side of the line and a very free market on the other side. So it must be a liberalized market in some way with common rules.
While Singapore lacks natural resources, a researcher says it can contribute by investing in infrastructure.
There's a lot to be done in terms of organizing flows of money, which will see richer economies potentially invest in developing economies within the region and even further beyond, in order to help facilitate flows of energy that can all be carefully accounted for to ensure that everybody gets paid the right price, that it's the fairest possible solution for everybody involved in the grid.
The ASEAN power grid is already in operation. Existing electricity connections include between Singapore and Malaysia, as well as Thailand and Laos. In the future, solar energy from Australia may also be exported to Singapore. Nadira Zaidi, CNA, Stockholm.